Hello, you again. Welcome to the Medicine Show. Let's get destroying the walls of the cell, starting first with the wall that we know of as government. The word government comes from two Latin words, governare and mente. Governare means to steer or control. Mente means mind. So government is the control of the mind. So how is that done? Today, it is done entirely by deception. First, we deliberately keep ourselves from knowing the most potent elements of natural law. And that natural law we have replaced with colorable law or fictions of law that are made not by nature but by man himself. This fiction of law remains entirely within the realm of legality. The true acceptance of legality is premised on one's acceptance of the lie that all laws are man-made. Were that true, there would be no men or women. Because before there were men or women, a man or woman would have to make the law governing the biological reproductive process. Under this ruse, that is impossible. Looking at colorable law another way, if everybody in the world decided in unison to reduce gravity by 25% and created a law to that effect, would gravity be reduced by 25%? No, it would not. That is stupid and impossible. Even if we all wanted it to be that way, natural law does not obey man. Man is subject to natural law. That's not to say that man could not reduce gravity if such a tool could be devised, but the tool itself would be required to itself operate within the limits of natural law. The entire reality system always remains in strict accord with natural law. It is important to know this. We have always been under complete lawful control. The fictions of law can only exist and only have power if they strictly obey natural law. The elements of that model look similar to this. Don't get hung up on the model. It is a model used for understanding and not a literal structure. At the top is on, or the supreme singular authority. Everything that is experienced according to the need and will of this omnipotent singular consciousness in strict accord with natural law. Most do not appreciate the singularity and tend to split the singularity and have a bias toward only one aspect. It is more useful to look at it this way. We cannot experience good without evil, and we cannot appreciate joy without suffering. It is one, or unity, and not duality. The stewards are responsible for all top-level control and are given power and authority over the physical manifestation. They are of one mind with on, so therefore are completely lawfully accountable. Gaining knowledge of good and evil is a complicated and nuanced business. They commune with on. The blue arrow is a representation of the Holy Grail law. Below that are the enforcers that ensure strict lawful compliance of all layers in blue, that is, resource control and steering. Central banking is an aspect of steering and creates the bridge between value and colorable value. The folks trapped in the orange legal zone rarely ever know they have encountered those in the blue zone. Those in blue are servants and responsible for all those in the orange zone. If one in the orange zone actually encounters one in the blue zone, then they do not have the ability to know it. It might be surprising to most, but those in the blue zone may not realize that they perform that lawful function. So complete is the control of on, that on can remain completely hidden from our ability to sense or measure. Everyone below the stewards in communion suffer a degree of confusion, or not fused, or not in full communion with on. Even those who transit out of the control structure through the empowerment of the Holy Grail law always retain a degree of confusion. As time goes on, that confusion can be reduced, but it never fully goes away. At least I have not experienced that, and I'm not sure I want to, as there would be little reason for me to remain in this reality simulation. Just above rock bottom, where most people find themselves, is the cell mentioned before, composed of the walls of government, finance, and religion, designed to maintain illusory control of mind, body, and soul. Let's look more closely at what we now call government. Governmental functions. Government codifies and enforces the policy, code and statutes, of steering and central banking. Government maintains the illusion of democratic self-determination. Government administers the illusion of a justice system. It conducts warfare and administers the application of the military. It creates, maintains, controls, and destroys all entities of color. Government controls all information, education, and indoctrination. Government maintains surveillance and records of all corporate entities, including persons. The relationship between the government wall and the finance wall is this. Government creates corporations and corporate colorable banks. It distributes the colorable monetary instruments, accounts for the monetary instruments. It collects and applies punitive and regulatory taxation on the behalf of finance on all colorable entities. It maintains the illusion of governmental control over finance. It enforces financial penalties through the colorable court and colorable legal system. Government is held in check through its dependency on central bank financial control. The relationship between the wall of government and the wall of religion is that government creates and controls corporate entities of worship. It maintains statutes and codes according to the limits set by religious dogma. Government throttles the degree of religious independence. Government maintains the continual state of lawful criminality by enforcing legal statutes in direct opposition to natural law. Government creates and administers all colorable entities of scientific exploration in accordance with religious doctrine. And government provides military support to maintain religious conflict. The primary government deceptions are that law comes from man and not nature, that government is invincible and all-powerful and controls everything and everyone, and that government is lawful in that the colorable law is the same as natural law. The primary fatal government vulnerabilities are that colorable law applies only to colorable entities and not the living spirit that dwells in men, women, and children. Colorable law only applies and only has lawful power in the case where one is ignorant of natural law, unresponsive, irresponsible, incompetent, or insane. Colorable law only applies and only has power under informed, willing consent. The ultimate weapon against government is that remedy out of colorable law back to natural law is a fundamental inherent right and power of on that cannot be denied anyone with knowledge of on and knowledge of the natural law. Understanding this is crucial because it does not matter if an agent of government knows it or not, But they cannot take that remedy away, because they do not have the power to deprive themselves of their own remedy to natural law. Do you need proof? If these agents of government had the power to deny anyone who knows on and knows natural law, then would you not think that I would not be telling you this right this moment? How is my freedom of speech protected when others is not? What's the difference? They can lie and intimidate all they want, but it is up to you whether you willingly believe the lie or willingly choose to be intimidated. In the eyes of the confused, what we know today as government does not even qualify as government, because from that particular viewpoint, it does not meet the basic definition of government. Governments are created by man, so therefore government is not more powerful than a single individual man. Governments derive their power from the consent of the people. It's glaringly obvious to most that even when people do not consent, today's government acts against them. That action would be a criminal act were it not founded in law. But that foundation is not exactly as many believe it to be. Where does that power truly come from? It cannot come by way of contract, because a contract does not exist if it is not willingly entered into. That willingness is consent. Without consent, there is no contract, so lawful force cannot be used to force compliance with the contract. These government agents are therefore not using contracts to derive power used against us. So how do they get that power? They get it by way of ignorance and irresponsibility. Under natural law, one who is ignorant of natural law is irresponsible, or not responsible for their actions. They are, under the natural law, insane and incompetent. One who is incompetent cannot be lawfully held to the terms of a lawful contract, or a contract that has force in natural law. One who is not responsible cannot exercise rights, and therefore has no power. Those who are responsible have the responsibility over the irresponsible, and that is how these agents gain power over the ignorant. It is real power, it is real force, and it is exercised under strict accordance with natural law. So agents get their power through the ignorance of those they act against. Since the ignorant cannot be held to the terms of a natural law contract, the agents of government use that ignorance of natural law to empower colorable or contracts of fiction. The power does not come from the colorable contract because it is fiction. The power comes by way of the ignorance of one who is party to the colorable contract. In this way, agents of fictional government can make it appear that they have power through colorable contract when they cannot do so. It is a deception, or more accurately, it is how the ignorant deceive themselves. That deception is annihilated when one is no longer ignorant of the law. Governments of today are purely colorable commercial constructs called corporations. These are entities of finance, and those two sides of the cage are intimately cross-supported. Corporations, by their definition, immunize their agents from the liability of their actions and the responsibility of acts committed on the behalf of a fictional corporation. Look around today. Are government agents accountable to anyone? Yes, but they are not accountable to the confused. Besides, who would consent to an entity that has no accountability? Only an ignorant or incompetent man or woman would do such a fool thing. One who is a danger to themselves and others loses all power due to that incompetence. There is an important reason why the words of certain biblical passages were modernized. One such modernization was in Romans 13, where the word ruler was changed to government. Caesar was a man accountable under natural law. A corporate government is not accountable under natural law to those that they govern. So, is one required to do what these so-called government agents command? Yes, if one is ignorant of the law and irresponsible. No, as the structure does not apply when one is responsible and knowledgeable of natural law. This is another example how religion and government is dependent on their respective deceptions. Most churches are 501(c) corporations created under the exclusive authority of a corporate government. Government agents then gain power to control all actions of their subsidiary corporations. So it is not surprising when the agent of the church tells us that to be good, we need to do what the government tells us to do. Commercial corporations are created in the same way and can only exist if they abide the legal system of government. However, central banks tell the agents of government what to do by controlling the funding, and they hold the governments in check. Banks maintain their control because the militaries under the control of government allow them to maintain their illusions. False government only survives because we do not know enough about natural law to form lawful government, to stop the corporate governments. This is how we remain powerless and insane. Do not expect agents of government in the form of attorneys and judges to teach you the difference between legal and lawful, because they are not interested in you knowing how to stop them. All you need to know is that I'm still here after facing a federal district court judge, and know I'm still walking around free because they have no real power against anyone who knows natural law and is responsible and competent. These are not courts of law. They only apply to fiction. All they have is our own self-deception to use against us. Another way is to trick us, to use our words against us by changing the meaning in statutes. Although the language they use appears identical to the words we use, they use a completely different set of definitions. For instance, when we say person, we mean a flesh and blood body. When they say person, they mean an individual fictional corporation under their exclusive control, the exclusive control of the fictional government. So when a judge asks, "Are you this person?" what he's really asking is, "Are you my slave?" Since the natural law being used is, "By your word you are bound," you are voluntarily making yourself into his slave, and because you are ignorant, your mind is thoroughly trapped, and with it your body. Ultimately, those who are responsible empower government to control the irresponsible. If one is responsible, then that control is not required. It was set up to protect the irresponsible from real criminal liability under natural law. The walls of government collapse when one is responsible and no longer ignorant of natural law. One need not know any procedural or administrative law at all. There is no need to fight them or resort to any violence. Learn the law, become responsible, and merely consciously remove your consent. Well, there you have it, folks. Does this help? As always, thank you for being me.